So, a new safety directive has just dropped for Airbus helicopter operators, and believe me, it's a critical one. We're going to break down EASA's new Proposed Airworthiness Directive, PAD 25139. If you fly the Dolphin or the EC-155 series, you absolutely need to know what's in here. Let's just dive right in.
Here's how we're going to tackle this to get you up to speed fast. First, we'll cover what this directive actually is. Then, we'll get into the specific safety risk that EASA has flagged. After that, we'll look at what it means for your engineering and maintenance crews, touch on the business side of things, and finally, we'll wrap it all up with a clear action plan.
And really, this is the question every operator needs to be asking themselves right now. Being ready isn't just about ordering parts. It's about truly understanding the risk, the impact on your operations, and the timeline you're working with. Our goal here is to give you everything you need to confidently answer yes to that question.
Okay, so let's start with the basics. What in the world is this directive, and what is it actually asking you to do?
Before we get into the nitty-gritty of 25139, it's really important we're all on the same page about what a PAD is. Think of it as a heads up. EASA is saying, hey, we found a potential unsafe condition, and here's what we think needs to be done about it. This is that crucial window where you get to understand the issue and prepare before it becomes a final, mandatory rule, an AD.
So here are the top-line facts for this specific PAD. It's coming from EASA, and it was issued on September 8, 2025. The manufacturer is, of course, Airbus Helicopters, and the models you need to worry about are the SA-365, the AS-365, and the EC-155 series. And the subject, the critical component we're talking about, it's the main rotor servo controls.
Okay, so we know what it is. Now let's get to the why. What is the specific safety risk that made EASA issue this in the first place? Honestly, this is the whole reason we're even talking about this today.
The entire directive, all of it, boils down to one single tiny component, a lock washer. EASA's investigation has zeroed in on a potential failure of this specific washer, which is found on the upper ball bearing end of the main rotor servo control. It's a classic case of a very small part having a potentially massive impact.
So here's the potential chain reaction that has everyone concerned. It all starts with just normal wear and tear on that little lock washer. Over time, that can lead to a crack or even a total fracture. Once that happens, the washer can't do its job and the securing nut starts to loosen. And from there, you could be looking at a servo-control malfunction, which could ultimately lead to a loss of main rotor control.
And look, this is pulled directly from the documentation itself, spelling it out in black and white. The whole point of this PAD is to tackle the risks of a servo malfunction that could lead to reduced helicopter control. It really doesn't get much more serious than that.
All right, we understand the why. Now let's shift gears to the how. What does all of this mean for your technical teams on the ground? This is where the rubber really meets the road, or I guess where the wrench meets the bolt.
Your tech crews need specifics, and here they are. This is absolutely critical. The PAD calls out two different part numbers for this lock washer, and it depends on the helicopter model. For the EC-155 series, you're looking for the part number ending in 819320. For the entire SA and AS-365 family, it's the one ending in 2121-20. Getting this detail right is job number one.
So what's the actual task? It's an inspection, either one-time or repetitive, and you'll have to comply within certain flight hours or calendar limits that'll be spelled out in the final AD. And the fix is simple. If you find any damage on that washer, you replace it. That's it. The whole procedure is laid out in the updated alert service bulletins from Airbus.
Okay, let's zoom out from the hangar floor for a minute and look at the bigger picture. A technical directive like this always has ripple effects on operations, on scheduling, and yeah, on the bottom line. The single biggest operational challenge here is the very real possibility of unscheduled inspections. Depending on where your aircraft are in their flight hour cycles, you might have to pull a helicopter from the line outside of its normal maintenance window, and that, as you know, directly hits your availability and mission readiness.
Now, when we talk about the financial hit, it's not really about the cost of a new washer. That's small potatoes. The biggest cost, by a long shot, is going to be aircraft downtime. Labor is the next biggest piece of the pie. The real pain comes from having an asset on the ground when it should be in the air, earning its keep. So for anyone in a management role, these are your key takeaways. You've got to start planning for operational disruptions now. You need to build this potential downtime into your fleet schedules. And this is a big one. If you have leased aircraft, you better be checking those agreements to see who's on the hook for compliance costs. And of course, get ready to budget for it.
All right, we've covered the what, the why, and a how. Let's pull this all together into a clear, no-nonsense action plan. These are the steps you need to be taking right now to ensure you're safe and compliant.
First, let's get our heads around the timeline. The pad came out on September 8th, so right now we're in a holding pattern, waiting for the final Airworthiness Directive to be published. Once that happens, it usually becomes effective 14 days later, and that's when the clock officially starts ticking on that initial compliance deadline.
So what can you do right now, today? Here are your immediate next steps. Number 1, review. Get this PAD and the service bulletins into the hands of your entire technical staff. 2, plan. Go through your fleet list, identify every affected helicopter, and start planning those inspections. 3, integrate this specific risk into your safety management system. 4, monitor. Keep a close eye out for that final AD from EASA. And 5, report. Be prepared to report any findings you have back to the authorities.
And that brings us to the end of this briefing. We've laid out the directive, the risk, and the actions you need to take. So we'll leave you with this one simple question to take back to your team. Based on everything we just discussed, what is the very first tangible step your organization will take today to get ready?